Captain's Log Supplemental. Our replicator's on the fritz. You know, I vividly remember going to a movie theater for a friend's birthday as a kid. All of us lined up at the soda dispenser, randomly picking different flavors, mixing horrible concoctions, and shrieking in glee at the results. The whimsy of the replicator's du jour menu has certainly kept the crew entertained. A few even tried eating the meals. I was served chicken parmesan a la mode with a fruity cereal garnish for lunch today. I think I'm gonna go visit the shuttles and borrow some of the field rations.
Welcome to another episode of Captain's Log Supplemental. As always, I'm joined by my two friends, Stanford.
Hello.
And Rob.
Yo.
So Captain's Log Supplemental. Oh, sorry, we're going to say something?
Yeah. I've got a joke for you.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
What has 6 thumbs but only 1 appendix?
The three of us.
It's this podcast, yeah.
Oh, God.
That's right. I'm the only remaining appendix here, and I plan to keep it. So,
Yes, we were going to record. We're actually 2 weeks without recording. And poor Rob. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell the story, Rob?
My appendix turned traitor, and it was awful.
To quote a comedian I follow, he calls it that Judas of an organ.
yes. So, had to evict that motherfucker.
Yeet.
Indeed.
The appendix hath been yoked from you. So yes.
We throw you off your game there a little bit.
I totally lost my flow there.
Perfect. That was exactly, you know who else lost their flow? But Rob, when his appendix was all fucked up.
Oh my God.
That's true. Yep. All right. Jumping back in. So on Captain's Log Supplemental, each week we cover another episode of Star Trek, and we are going in chronological order. We are in the middle of the first season of Star Trek Enterprise right now.
We're getting towards the end. We got like 9 episodes left or something.
Something like that. Yeah, it was on episode 18, you know, back in the days when seasons were 25 to 30 episodes long.
Nah.
Just as a reminder, since we are a new podcast, we do very much appreciate you take the time to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you are listening to it on. It does help us a lot since there is no, standard search algorithm for podcasts. You just kind of have to go looking for it, and that does help us quite a bit. So, that being said, today's episode we are looking at is Rogue Planet. This was an episode. Some things happened.
Man, I don't know. Like, should we start coming up with like a rating system?
Sure, we'll start on this episode at the end of the summary.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about when we get there. We gotta come up with a rating system. Like on a scale from threshold to I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna call our best on the scale. We'll have to think about that.
Let's go with command pips.
Is that an episode? What is that?
No. Like he means like captain, commander, lieutenant.
Oh
commander,
shit! That
lieutenant.
would require me to remember.
Is there a negative ensign? Is that?
I think it's a crewman.
Yeah, crewman. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, beginning of the episode, we start in with Archer being grumpy about this photo shoot that is being done, so his picture can hang in the halls of Starfleet. He's just very grumpy about it. He doesn't want his picture taken.
To be fair, Trip takes pictures like my mom. Like, she's got to line up the perfect shot. She has to tell you what you should be doing and how you need to look and where you need to stand in it. And then you wait. Then you wait some more.
He wants his friend to look good.
Yeah. We also learned that Vulcans maybe get mummified if they're important enough, which I feel like I need more information on.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like there are statues of Vulcans, so
yes.
She's not entirely because she's like Vulcans are remembered for their achievements, not how they looked. Meh.
But there's definitely statues. I mean, they smashed one in the last episode. So anyway, after that little cold open hubbub, we discover a rogue planet just drifting its way through the galaxy.
I very much appreciate how, like, because this show was, like, this episode was in 2002, that they're like, a rogue planet, crazy! Even though, like, now I think current theory is that there are actually more rogue planets than not.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
That's crazy if that's true.
Yeah, well, space is pretty fucking big.
Space is big. This is truth facts.
I mean, you think it's a long way down to the chemist, but that's just beans to space.
Beans. So they find out that the planet does seem to support a diverse animal population, mostly centered around the gases from these thermal vents in the planet. That's, I guess, are providing the warmth and atmosphere, I suppose, for the planet. They scan the planet. They find there's a ship down there, but they hail them and there's no response. So Archer, T'Pol, Hoshi, and Malcolm jump in a little pod down to the surface.
I like how someone's like, maybe they want to be left alone, and Archer clearly is like, fuck that shit. We're gonna go fuck with them.
We got to stay high. But they start to make their way down, and they can't find the ship, so they kind of land in the general area of it and go searching on foot. As they're traipsing through the jungle, Archers... Go ahead.
There's a lot of leaves on a planet that gets no sunlight.
Yeah, man.
Because they're talking about going through a canopy, and I cannot figure out... Like, I'm not a botanist or an ecologist, but I'm pretty sure a canopy exists because trees are competing for, like, sunlight, right? That's why there is a canopy?
That is generally how that works, yes. It's a reverse canopy. They're competing for the heat of the steam vents.
Right, and that's a thing, like, right? So, like, if the energy for the planet, instead of coming from the sun, is coming from the thermal vents, then you would expect that the plants and whatnot would be evolved to, like, cluster up as close to the vents as possible, you know?
Yep. Look, it's a jungle planet, and they're going on a safari, okay? That's generally what we're going for here, so this is what we're doing.
We're going on an adventure.
To the jungle.
We've got weird food and telepathic creatures. So Archer is a dick to Malcolm.
Oh my God.
Because Archer was an Eagle Scout. He says he needs to rub that in everybody's face, I guess.
But so was Reed, so they get into this weird Eagle Scout dick measuring contest that is like
badges.
Like completely unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, you know, Archer's Captain Doer. He's got to let everybody know he's motherfucking top dog.
And they're wearing those like green glasses visor things that look like those old. Do you remember like those Nerf targeting lenses that like didn't do anything but were just orange and had a reticle in the middle that you could put over your eyeball? Like that's what they look like.
Dude, those things were awesome.
Yeah, of course you had some.
Oh, I didn't have them, but my friends did.
Yeah. I definitely strapped one of those on my head at one point.
Y'all and your rich upbringing.
I was firmly middle class. So anyway, they find an abandoned campsite, and they say, you know, let's split up on the dark planet where there's no sunlight and we have to wear night vision goggles and it's hard to see, because that's always a good idea in horror movies. In short order, they're snuck up on by the hunters. They are relatively friendly, I guess, but they are pretty cagey from the start. They don't claim the planet, but they say it is kind of, you know, special, or I don't know if they ever say sacred, but it's very important to them in their culture. And eventually they invite the crew to dinner. They go into the fact that, you know, they're there on the planet on their kind of ritual hunt, which of course T'Pol is not on board with, seeing as, you know, Vulcan. Archer mentions that, you know, hunting had gone out of style on Earth. I forget how long ago he had said it was, but
I think he said 100 years as kind of a ballpark. I don't think he was like trying to give a date.
Right. But Malcolm's like, guns and hunting. I'm into this. And he wants to tag along to find out more about, I think, how they avoid detection.
So this seems like a good episode to drop this little fun bit of like Pennsylvania local knowledge. Hunting is a huge part of our state, obviously. It's just how it goes. And during hunting season, like when you're driving down the highway, you see cars just pulled over for no reason, usually trucks, and you're like, oh, okay, they're hunting, because like you could just pull off the road and just go hunting. That's how it works. As I understand it, this is not true in the schools around Philly, but in my school up in northeastern Pennsylvania, we actually got the first day of buck hunting season off.
Yeah, as you get into the more Pennsyltucky areas of the state, it's definitely it's. I mean, you might as well be in the South at that point. So
yes,
hunting culture is very big.
A school recognized holiday to go shoot a deer.
So back on the Enterprise, Trip and Malcolm. Okay, no, sorry. They go back to the Enterprise. Trip and Malcolm go back down to the planet. They talk about boar worms, which just sound horrifying.
Trip does not like bugs.
Trip is not a fan.
I mean, he's an engineer. Like, when does he have to deal with them?
Literally every day in his job, I think.
Not that kind of bug.
Oh. It's a good joke. Fuck you, people.
So eventually everybody settles down into bed, and Archer, although Archer stays up pretty... What?
Oh, yeah. No. Sorry. I did want to point out here that, like, and I don't know if this is intentional or if this was accidental, but, like, the body language between Reed and Trip does actually seem friendlier. And I wonder if, like, that was an actual character decision that the writers made because of, like, their time on the shuttle pod episode.
Right, yeah.
Because, like, Reed's like, I gotta go to bed. He, like, claps Trip friendly on the shoulder, and Trip's like, gives him, like, one of those nods, like, good night. And it's just, like, not only is Reed opening up, which is fine, but, like, you can see the friendship between those two characters has suddenly started, which is actually a surprisingly good attention to detail for this show.
Yeah. I agree. I actually didn't really notice that, but that is a good call out on that. Anyway, Archer stays up after everybody goes to bed, but starts hearing, a feminine voice call his name, which, on a jungle planet where there's no other people is totally a normal thing to hear. And just like any good horror movie character, runs off into the dark jungle alone to chase after the sexy lady voice.
I have in my notes that Archer is about to wind up with some fairy tale lesson for future kids in Starfleet.
Exactly. He briefly catches sight of the pretty jungle lady, but then she disappears pretty quickly after that.
My note here is, it's a conventionally attractive woman wearing a negligee.
Yep. It's pretty accurate, yep.
I've named her, what did I name her? Kawan. Cawwan.
Any particular reason?
A conventionally attractive woman wearing a negligee. Because she comes back and she does not change. She is constantly in that negligee.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sexy jungle lady, come on. Anyway, he tells everybody what he saw, but nobody believes him, thinks he's going crazy. Or at least the hunting party acts like they don't believe him. The Enterprise does confirm that there's no other people on the surface, though.
The hunters here are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they
are mercilessly making fun of him.
Yeah, as well they should, and Archer definitely deserves it.
And then one hunter is like, "Are you sure she's not someone from your vessel?" And Archer's like, "I'm sure." And in my brain, it's like, "Because I would have horned in on her by now." God damn this fucking show.
I think this is when I realized that one hunter's gimmick is that he's always just slapping somebody on the shoulder.
Oh my God, he's such a shoulder slap. He claps. That's the head instructor of my kid's karate dojo. He's a shoulder clapper. He's such a firm. Like, I've been clapped on the shoulders by that man so hard.
As long as he's not clapping something else.
Well, I mean, I don't know what he does in his free time.
So at this point, it's time to go firewolf hunting. Apparently, they only have 2 days left in their allotted hunting period. So it's time to get going.
I have so many notes at this point, which are like, you tell me if I look stupid in this eyepiece, right? And this looks like some real high stakes laser tag going on here between the red visors and the green visors.
It really did.
Yeah. So the hunting party finds what they're tracking. And the rest of the crew goes to check out some gas vents while the hunting party, because it's just Malcolm with the hunting party, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Archer and Trip and DePaul are kind of wandering around those gas vents, Trip talks to Archer about what he saw, and Archer admits it kind of sounds crazy, but he knows what he saw.
Archer says, Trip, when have you ever known me to do something truly foolish? I'm like, dude, I could cite a dozen things that you've done that are truly foolish, like on camera this season.
Within the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to the hunting party, and they've spotted a wraith, which I guess just looks like a glowing slug, pretty much. They leave Malcolm behind with the babysitter Hunter, who's very upset about it. Archer sees a sexy jungle lady again, and immediately wanders off and leaves Trip behind to chase after her. He eventually catches up, and she says she needs him. So sexy jungle lady in the negligees needs Archer.
Yes.
Were you gonna say something?
Nope. Just go on there, telling him how much she needs him. It's very uncomfortable.
Yes, it's very men writing women. In this case, I guess it's men writing sexy space wraiths.
Mm-hmm. So this might be a good time to tell everyone that my wife listens to us record these.
Dude, I kind of feel like we should just actually record her saying things, because then she can be like the producer that sits off screen and interjects funnily every once in a while.
Oh, she could be Sophie. The problem is that I know my wife, she would get way too excited and I would no longer be allowed to talk. I was on a panel for this con, like a disability and gaming panel.
That was different.
And it was like a Zoom panel, and they're like, do we have any questions from the audience? And Mariah went on like 3 separate diatribes, and I'm like, dude, did you just want to come in here and be on the panel?
So at this point, the hunting party starts to open fire on the wraith because they've tracked him down, and we make the connection that sexy jungle lady is the wraith. She has to run away immediately. DePaul and Trip find Archer, and sexy jungle lady immediately disappears. And the wraith apparently injures the hunter.
Yeah, he got dick smacked.
Slug smacked, I guess?
Yeah, just a big old mushroom stamp right on his chest.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, we kind of meet back with everybody, and the hunters seem to be like they're trying to get rid of the Enterprise crew because they don't want to let their injured crew member initially go get treated by Phlox, but they eventually go give in. Back in a little tent with T'Pol, Archer confesses he saw the sexy jungle lady again. And she tells him to go talk to Dr. Phlox about it, just to make sure he's not going crazy, I guess. But Archer, being Archer, is determined to find sexy jungle lady.
T'Pol calls his ass out too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. He says he needs to go alone because what's he gonna do if he finds sexy jungle lady? But T'Pol points out Archer's acting horny.
Yeah, she's like, I wonder if you'd be so eager if it was a scantily clad man you saw out there. And there's just like, and then she wanders off, and I'm like, yeah, you fucking tell him, T'Pol. Fuck that asshole.
100% correct.
Now, if I was captain, that would still work.
The doctor can apparently just make blood.
Yeah, that was an interesting kind of offline. It's like, it was easy to synthesize his blood. All right. Shit.
Cool. That's handy.
I'm sure that's not going to be completely countermanded soon enough.
Yeah, go away. That's fine. The hunter's going to be fine because Doc makes that good blood. He's found cellular residue in the wound, and he kind of says they're trying to mutate, but can't quite figure out what they're changing into. So obviously this is kind of leading the crew into the knowledge of the wraith itself. in his quest for sexy jungle lady, Archer goes wandering through some caves.
My quote here is, "Hello, I'm here alone and ready to have sex. I mean, help you."
Sexy jungle lady finds him, grabs him as his arm slips.
He immediately hits on her.
Yeah. That's what do you think he's been waiting for? He got that physical contact as the go ahead, and he's like, "All right, it's go time."
So Mariah watched this episode with me, which is the first time she's done that. And there's this line here where Archer's like, "I don't understand what I find so compelling about you." And Mariah goes, "It's the tits."
It's definitely the tits. He kind of has this conversation with the Wraith, and she kind of tells him that Archer sees a beautiful woman because that's what he wants. Because he horny. The alien is telepathic and reveals that the hunters are there to hurt them. Or not to hurt them. Well, to hurt them, but yes. But to hunt them as kind of like the grand trophy.
It's very most dangerous game kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very most dangerous game vibe, yeah.
Like, I saw that coming a mile away, too.
Yeah, they set it up right.
100%.
Yeah, they set it up
Although I will
way.
say, I don't think they think... the writing doesn't strike me as they think that this is some kind of, reveal. Because there wasn't, a big swell of music, or, that wasn't the dramatic, moment. So I think the writers kind of made it... we all knew. We all knew where this was going pretty much when we met the hunters.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely set up that way, quite obviously. They even throughout we don't hunt anything sentient, her nudge, wink, wink. Back at the camp, the injured hunter is back and healthy, and the hunters are still being cagey about what they are hunting, but they do eventually admit that they are hunting the wraiths. T'Pol points out that they seem intelligent, obviously, because of the mental games they're playing with Archer and everybody else. But the hunters argue it's just instinct, and the hunter recounts his father's story, which really just reinforces the point that they're smart, the things they're hunting.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the point where they're pretty much saying it out loud.
Yeah. We find out that the wraiths emit some chemical signature when they're afraid, and that's how the hunters have kind of turned the tables on them and track them down and hunt them. So Archer then takes this information back to the Enterprise and talks to Phlox about coming up with something to mask that chemical signature to kind of even the odds against the hunters for the wraiths.
And I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure of the ethics here, because there is definitely an understanding that they're going to make this chemical scent blocker so that the wraiths can kill the hunters.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So first of all, we're just let's ignore that prime directive thing for a minute. Although it doesn't exist yet, but Archer tried to invent it or whatever a few episodes ago. But I'm actually like Matthew Stafford. I'm not sure of the ethics here. My gut tells me that I definitely agree that we should let the oppressed kill the oppressors. But there is some actual gray area here. Especially because they don't give the hunters a heads up.
That's where I feel like they lose on the ethics game.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if they told them hey, just so you know, we found out these guys are sentient. I don't know if you know or not. I'm assuming you do because, you've been villain twiddling your mustache the entire episode so far. So we're just going to jump to some conclusions here. You should leave.
Although I will say they actually put forth a fairly convincing argument, if you think about it from their perspective, that they do not believe that they are sentient. They equated the mental duplicating of your desires and thoughts, not necessarily as a way to communicate intelligently, but as a mimicry. They didn't actually use this analogy, but what I thought of was like a parrot. A parrot is not a sentient thinking being, but they can mimic a lot of the sounds and stuff we make that make it sound like they're speaking a language, right?
Yeah.
And Archer's had a real conversation with Koan, which is fine, but if their hunters never really had that kind of conversation, I don't think it's necessarily errant to like give their argument some credibility there, you know?
Yep. I definitely see both sides of it here. I think I probably lean towards more that they did the right thing, but maybe, give the hunters a heads up so they don't just wander into a trap, which is exactly what happens. Although it's just the one, wraith, sexy lady wraith that Archer's trying to hump. But she's able to successfully kind of camouflage herself and not be detected by the hunters, and she kicks their ass and stuff.
and she doesn't really hurt the one as badly as the first one got hunted. So I'm wondering if like maybe there was a cut scene or a bit of dialogue or something where like Archer and Kawan kind of arranged like they're not going to know what hit them, just scare them off, and hopefully they won't hunt you anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They do quickly realize that their advantage is gone, and run back to camp. But instead of just, leaving, Archer decides to like gloat about what
it's so weird. So weird. He's just like, so how'd that hunting trip go?
Yeah. So they obviously are pretty suspicious of him, but he does his Archer thing and gets to rub it in their faces, I guess. He has one last conversation with sexy slug lady.
Which she says the line, never stop seeking what seems unattainable.
Yeah, well, like what? My question was...
Is that the lesson here? What the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, never stop seeking what's unobtainable?
Because like that was theoretically part of the story of the poem that his mom read to him when he was a kid, which, mind you, that means that when he was a child, he was still horny enough to concoct this scantily clad forest lady. But like...
It's a Yeats poem about a man catching a fish that turns into a woman.
Yes, but like, never stop seeking what seems unattainable is not a that doesn't relate to what's happening at all.
That also makes no sense.
It had to do with the themes of the poem that was being referenced.
Right, but those themes aren't referenced at all in the show. I'm sorry, they do talk about the poem and that theme. I understand that. But that theme is not explored at all in the plot of the episode.
Not well, at least.
So I don't know, or maybe it's, I don't know, maybe she's supposed to be unattainable. That's why he had to go into the woods. I don't know. It was not some writer thought that he was super fucking clever with that, and it did not make any goddamn sense.
Maybe that's just like sentient space slug, like flirtation.
Yeah, because she turns back into the slug, and the camera cuts to Archer, and he's clearly still into it. Like, he's like, fucking... Yeah, I think he may have actually come on screen right there in his pants, watching that transformation into the slug.
He really wants to bang the alien slug.
Oh my God, he wants that slug so much more than that woman. It was very uncomfortable.
So, yep, that is the end of the episode. So now that we're here, what's our rating system?
So like I said, I think we should say like a scale from like 1 to 10, where 1 is threshold. Like everyone agrees Threshold's the worst Star Trek episode. That's the one where Paris turns into a salamander with Janeway. And then what's the best?
I mean, we could go movies too. We could do like Wrath of Khan.
But we're doing episodes, right? So I think we should stick to the episodic nature. Because otherwise I would just say all of Lower Decks.
Oh, that was such a great show. I'm really glad I finished that. Well, on the numeric scale, I would put this one at like probably like a 6. Like it was just a kind
high.
of a...
I was gonna go the opposite of 6, which would be 4.
4, yeah, that's about where I was too. Crazy.
It was run of the mill, but like it was fine. It wasn't offensive in some ways. Like I don't know, it was fun.
I think that my biggest issue with the episode in general is that like
there's. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to start suggesting kind of high-end episodes.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I was going to say was my overall issue with the episode was like they were trying to because it's all at night, right? Because it's a rogue planet, and it felt very much like they were trying to dial up some tension, but they didn't actually pull that off at all. And so it just ended up being like hard to see what was actually happening, and not a lot actually happened, you know?
I mean, that's why they needed all of those scenes of like 4 begoggled men running through a jungle,
right?
All haphazard,
right. Which, like, if it was lit, at least you could see that stuff happening. But instead, it's just like, well, there goes the red visors and the green one, like whatever. So I think that, like, I think that the concepts of the episode were fine. I think the execution was not quite enough to pull it up above half, in my opinion.
So I was just going through different lists of kind of best episodes. There's like, let's see, Chain of Command in Next Generation, which is, that's the
slug one. Yeah, that one's all right.
No, that's the where Picard's captured by the Cardassians and tortured.
Oh, I thought it was the one where all the Starfleet people had been infiltrated. Is that called something else that's similar?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
Another Next Generation was Family, which is the one where Picard goes down and, kind of is trying to recover from his incident with the Borg. There's Far Beyond the Stars in Deep Space Nine, where, that's the one where Sisko kind of has that
fever dream.
Yeah, where he goes back
in time, kind of. Where he's that writer. That is a good episode.
Let's see here. I don't know any. As has been pointed out to us, we're not super familiar with the original series, but City on the Edge of Forever is referenced a lot as a very good episode.
Well, so here's what we'll do, okay? Our scale goes from Threshold, which is the worst episode, about going warp 10, which means that you are simultaneously in every point in the universe. So actually, we'll put Threshold at 10 too, because it simultaneously was also the best.
No,
because it's so bad.
We cannot do that. I refuse.
Right. So we will come back to this as we try to flesh our scale out.
All right,
but it sounds like
now we'll go from Threshold to 10 for now.
Threshold to 10. Threshold is 1, which is the worst, and 10 is the best. To be determined. It sounds like, Rob, you said you were thinking like a 6, and Chris and I were thinking like a 4. So
yeah, it's not. See, I can't get it like to 5 or over. It just because there's nothing terribly interesting about it, and there's also things that are very blah about it. So
yeah, I don't disagree.
I guess I'm thinking as like a 6 out of 10 on like a grading scale.
maybe for Enterprise episodes.
Well, maybe it's like warp factors where each one is 10 times better than the one before.
It's logarithmic.
Oh, man, that's such a dorky thing to say out loud. All right, well, we have to take a break. We will be back in just a minute.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So for our deep dive segment on this episode, I wanted to talk about Star Trek romances, since we had such a lovely example of romance in this episode. As Stanford's wife pointed out, no means no.
So when you say romance, though, do you mean like the one episode flings, or like the multi-series romance, or the multi-episode romances?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Both, yes. So what I was planning on doing is just kind of going through kind of some examples of Star Trek romances and talking about if we thought these were kind of good examples of romance or bad examples of romance.
Good in terms of like that is a healthy romance that I would not be afraid to like see in real life, or good in terms of like writing, because that's not always the same thing.
Oh man.
So I think both would apply.
Okay.
I think we could talk about both points, because sometimes, yes, I mean, obviously unhealthy romance is very common in the human world. So
right, and it can be very dramatic. So like as long as it's done with some sensitivity. I think that like unhealthy relationships can be good dramatic situations. Although, let's just be upfront, Hollywood loves to just use rape as a dramatic element way too fucking much because we just need to stop doing it at all.
Yeah,
but
that's
like
fair.
having a story that's focused around like I'm unhappy in this marriage and I want to, you know, kind of move out of it, and that's the dramatic tension of the story. That's fine. You know?
Yeah. Okay, so the first one I wanted to start out with is something that I think Stanford will appreciate is Bellana Torres and Tom Paris in Voyager. So I'm conflicted about this one, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's just like I think it's a real and interesting relationship between them. Between, you know, kind of Bellana's short fuse and Tom's kind of carelessness in how he handles his relationships. They definitely are very conflicted a lot of the time, and you don't get a lot of the kind of happy side of that relationship. It is more so focused on kind of the conflict side of that relationship quite a bit.
So I have two observations on this. This may not surprise you. One of them, I will push back on you a little bit. There is an evolution to their relationship that is actually shown on screen. It definitely starts out as being more like a kind of a fling, but then like they get more serious. And Tom, as a romantic partner, does have an arc. Like he does kind of evolve from the, you know, I'm a fly ball, Jesus.
Fly ball?
A fly ball. God damn, I said it again. A fly boy horn dog that like, you know, will hit on anything that kind of hoves into view, to actually a very concerned and caring partner. Now, as you say, there is a lot of conflict in their relationship. And again, I would chalk that up more to like, that's what's interesting to write about, especially in like the 90s and early 2000s. Like, we don't get to see a lot of like healthy relationships on TV because that's not dramatic enough for the writers. So I'll give them a little bit of a pass there. I will say that like, I don't think that it's a healthy relationship because it very much reads as, and I don't know how intentional this is, but it very much reads as a work relationship. Like these are two people who fell in love at work. And as they continue going, it becomes more and more obvious that like the thing that they have in common is their work. Not their personal interests per se, because they're always talking about how, you know, they don't have a lot of common interests outside of work.
Right.
But like, given the unique circumstances of their work on Voyager being stuck out in the Delta Quadrant, et cetera, like work is a substantial portion of their lives. So they're using that as their common ground. And in the real world, I don't, you know, that's not generally going to work out very well. But I think it works out well enough in the show.
Yeah, I think you solid points on what you said there. I tend to lean towards it's not what I would consider a healthy relationship for a lot of the reasons that you state. But, you know, they do seem to respect each other, which is important. Rob, any thoughts?
I know nothing about either of these people.
I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
I know Tom Paris. I don't know Bellana.
She's the Klingon.
Half Klingon engineer. Half or quarter? I can't remember.
She's a half.
Half, okay.
I think.
Okay. So, in that case, then I will move on to kind of a dual question. Spock relationships. So we have Spock with Uhura in the Kelvin timelines.
Zoe Saldana. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Spock, I'll say with
T'Pring?
Probably T'Pring, because there's T'Pring / Chapel in Strange New Worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
Which they're kind of intertwined in that because it's kind of Spock is, you know, engaged to T'Pring, but we don't really get a lot of interaction with T'Pring on the show.
A lot of hijinks.
A lot of hijinks. In both the episodes she's featured in.
Which is funny because she very like her character's like I don't like hijinks, and then like you're right, both of the times we see her, there's a lot of hijinking.
But he actually seems to have more romantic feelings towards Chapel. So, okay, first I'll say, which do you prefer of the relationships? Like, which are more interesting to you?
I think my favorite is Spock and Uhura. It's you get to see it fleshed out a little more. Like with T'Pring and with Chapel, it's hinted at. Like you see the tension there, but I don't feel like they've explored it to the same extent that the Kelvin timeline did. So far, at least. Like that could definitely change in new seasons, but I don't know. You get to see a lot of emotional growth in the Kelvin timeline.
The problem I have with the Kelvin timeline one is that it relies too heavily on that like, Vulcans, am I right? Kind of one-lining. It's just like, and don't get me wrong, it's funny. It's funny when, Chris Pine's like, are you two fighting? What's that even like? Like, that's funny because it's a Vulcan. How does that work? But there is a level of like, it doesn't feel like a real relationship when all you do is complain about Vulcans being Vulcans, Like that's your romantic partner, and there should be an effort to understand them better than that,
I mean, I feel like you just described half the dialogue in the first half of season 1 of Enterprise.
I don't disagree. And that's kind of my point. As much as all 4 of these actors are fucking gorgeous, but like, as much as it is nice to see the chemistry between Zoe Saldana and Zachary Quinto, I think that the relationship that was written for them relies too heavily on that trope.
That's fair.
Okay. Yep, I tend to agree with you there. I think I lean towards the Kelvin timeline relationship because for no other reason besides we have seen more of it with the various movies, so we know more about it than the other one. But I think you do have the kind of interesting plot line of he's engaged in an arranged marriage on Strange New Worlds, but actually has romantic feelings for this other woman.
Which, to be fair, like T'Pring is like clearly a good partner in those relationships, and it's funny because that is called out in that last episode. This is the most recent episode of Strange New Worlds, so minor spoiler alerts, I guess. But like she's the one who's like, I'm your fiance and you didn't trust me with this information.
Right.
Like, that's some shit partnering right there. And she's completely 100% correct.
Yep.
And so it is kind of interesting that like in that relationship, which I do think it is more interesting on paper, even if like you don't get to see as much of it on screen, which is a little too bad. It is interesting that like Spock is not the good root for side of that relationship. It's T'Pring. She's the one who's trying, she's the one who's trying to meet Spock halfway. She's the one who has no compunction about his humanity, even when he himself does,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So she's wickedly supportive in a way that like is almost taken for granted from like Zoe Saldana and from Nurse Chapel because they're humans. Right. So they don't lose any, cultural or social stigma by, allowing Spock to embrace his humanity.
Mm-hmm.
T'Pring is also a cool callback to the original series.
Oh, is she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the same wife that was presented in the Ponfar episode. I can't remember the name of it.
So the one with the where they fight into that song.
Yeah.
The only reason I know that song is because of Cable Guy. Have you ever seen Cable Guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in that movie, Jim Carrey reenacts Spock's portion of that fight in medieval times. And that's why he's doing that, like,
that's awesome.
like, that's why he's doing that soundtrack.
So silly.
Yeah,
however,
Kirk and... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to move on to the next one, but if you have something to say, go ahead.
Oh, no, it was just funny because that Spock and Kirk wind up fighting with those, like, giant Q-tip things.
So speaking of the original series, I just wanted to throw a quick nod in here. None of us are very familiar with it, but just to kind of appease those listeners out there who may enjoy it, I wanted to touch base on one that was mentioned on a Screen Rant article I had found. But Kirk and Edith Keeler in City on the Edge of Forever. Apparently in this one, Kirk and Spock chase deranged McCoy back into time, into New York City during the Depression. They meet...
What a sentence.
Right. They meet Edith Keeler, who apparently is a focal point in history they've been drawn to. She's a brilliant woman, a humanitarian, who's trying to kind of save the world in her own little corner of it. And Kirk kind of meets her and recognizes a kindred spirit, someone who's kind of more interested in things bigger than herself. They definitely connect right away, and there's chemistry between them. The only thing that could apparently have stopped Kirk from saving Edith's life at the moment of truth was the risk of civilization as he knew it, and for a moment he considered doing it anyway. Doomed romance, which is not the only time that comes up in Star Trek, as I recall.
That doesn't surprise. That's a very Shakespearean notion, the idea that, like, you have to choose between, something very grandiose or a simple romance. I mean, that's basically Romeo and Juliet, but it happens in other of his plays as well.
There's certainly, this isn't even the only back in time romance of Kirk. I mean, he goes back.
Is Kirk his own dad? Is that what we're going to find out
here? Of course, he falls in love with the one lady in the movie where they go back in time to save the whales.
Does he fall in love with her? I don't know.
There's definitely romance between them.
I guess.
It would have been really funny if alternative timeline Kirk actually, like, wound up with La'an.
It sounds like Kirk is like the Genghis Khan of Star Trek time traveling.
It's true.
So while we're on the topic of kind of single episode romances, I do want to bring up Picard and Aline in The Inner Light. Now, The Inner Light is...
That is considered by some to be one of the finest episodes of Star Trek right there.
Myself included. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's a fantastic episode. But if you're not familiar, in this episode, Picard gets knocked unconscious by this probe, and while only 20 minutes pass on the Enterprise, he basically lives an entire lifetime on this planet called Catan that had been, whenever they launched this probe shortly after, destroyed by a natural phenomena. But this probe kind of lets him experience what it was to be a person on this planet and this culture. And he wakes up and he's married to this woman, Aline, who basically has to deal with a husband who doesn't know his name, and believes that he's, he isn't the person that he's portrayed to be in this recreation. And for God's sake, she's the most supportive woman in any Star Trek romance of all time.
I'm not sure I agree with that, considering that at the very end, it turns out she was gaslighting him the entire time.
All right. Okay. Stop it.
Because at the end, if I recall correctly, the end of this episode is him, like, basically on his deathbed as an old man, and her going, yeah, we know that you're Picard, like, you don't belong here. This is a way we've kept this record of our civilization that has died. And he's like, oh, you did know. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay. So, yes, but don't
decades of gaslighting.
However, she was very patient with him from the start. If we go from the belief that...
But I can't go from that belief. That's my point. Like, is that patience?
Stop it.
She's the one manipulating it.
You're ruining it. You are ruining it. You are a ruiner of episodes. And stop it. But she is very patient at the beginning, and says, lets him do whatever he needs to do to explore what he needs to explore. And then eventually they have a whole family, and he has grandkids, and then he dies, and it's all a lie. Blah. Stanford.
Well, I mean, it's not all for nothing. He does learn to play a little flute.
He does learn to play some flute, which is featured in another romance, another single episode romance.
Hell yes, it is.
I can't remember the name of that episode of the woman, but
I don't remember. The planet is Ragusa, right?
Something like that.
The pleasure planet or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh no, I'm thinking of a different episode.
Is he not playing the flute in the hotel episode?
Maybe, but what I'm thinking of is the episode where he meets this science officer on a ship and forms a romance, and she plays like keyboards or piano, and he plays flute, and they kind of bond over playing that, and eventually he has to like order her to to go into some danger, and like she doesn't end up dying, but it was kind of like, ugh, I don't want to wrestle with that decision to order somebody I care about into danger. Yeah. So.
And he'd already lived a whole life with a wife and stuff. So.
The last one I wanted to touch on, I've heard differing opinions on whether it's good or bad, and that is O'Brien and Keiko.
So the thing about O'Brien and Keiko is it is very what we expect of a married couple on TV during the 90s. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
It's very, a lot of the humor is my wife, the old ball and chain.
Right. Which is not good, but it is typical.
But I will say they are supportive of each other. And that is demonstrated in a lot of episodes. They also have, speak honestly with each other a lot of times. There's an episode in DS9 where there's like a Cardassian child that was being taken care of by Bajorans, and there's like a whole like hubbub about it. And like Keiko ends up kind of like caring for him kind of in the meantime while things are being figured out. And basically O'Brien says something racist about it, and she calls him the fuck out on it.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question that I just thought of. Are Keiko and O'Brien the only characters that are in like a committed relationship in the show the whole time?
Well,
because O'Brien is introduced as being married to Keiko in like season 1 of TNG.
No.
Or season 2. He's a married man right away.
No, he's not.
Or I'm sorry, he's in a relationship. That's right. They get married.
That's right.
Yeah.
But my point is that he is in a relationship. He does mention that.
Yes.
So, like, I can't think of another 2 characters. Like, I know, like, Tuvok is married. He has kids and stuff, but, like, you don't meet his wife.
Right.
I can't think of another 2 characters that are in a committed relationship from before the show that they're in.
What about on Discovery, the doctor and what's his face?
Oh, Dr. Sexy and Stanitz. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good one. Okay, that's a good example.
Oh, another one that started before the show, because like you see them speaking with each other, would be Pike and Patel.
Which one's Patel?
The female captain from Strange New Worlds. She's the lawyer.
Oh, didn't they break up like in the last spoilers? They just broke up.
Briefly.
Yeah, they got back together. I mean, I guess not technically.
No. They're broken up because number 1 was chastising him about it.
Yeah.
Well, no, then they get back together.
Yeah,
they make up.
They got back together at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
because like he comes back and he's like, "Your little locket, brought me home."
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess my impression from that conversation was like we're still going to be on friendly terms, but we're going to take a break. But I was mad at that episode for other reasons, so I may not have been paying attention.
Yeah, I can't think of a whole lot of other like relationships
and I guess like that's kind of my observation here, right? Because when we have television shows that are situational shows like this, and it is interesting that you're bringing up the later shows which are not as situational, right? there is a tendency in American storytelling to not have characters tied down.
Yeah.
And I think that Keiko and O'Brien are a kind of refreshing break from that tradition.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think the kind of the tired trope is, they're in a committed, successful relationship, so that's boring and uninteresting. We can't do any plot lines with that. So
right, which is very very symptomatic of that kind of like 90s sitcom era.
Dude, I think that's just storytelling in general, man. Like Jane Austen didn't write stories about happy couples.
I think you can write stories about happy couples, but still have conflict in events that happen.
You absolutely can.
I think it's lazy to say that they just have to be not tied down to have an interesting story. And I think there is a number of like, not necessarily like, I don't want to say just sitcoms, but a lot of sitcoms I think have done it where you have, committed relationships where they maybe experience conflict or turmoil. As your wife pointed out, Carla and Turk from Scrubs was one. A lot of different sitcoms have it, I suppose, but especially like the 90s ones, you get a lot of the
right. And that was early 2000s where they're starting to break away from some of those tropes. But by the same token, it's like I grow very weary of like, well, the kind of catch-all drama we can throw in is like, oh, maybe their marriage is on the rocks. It's like, all right, can we do something else?
Mm-hmm.
It is as Rob pointed out, it's not interesting when everybody's just happy,
Yeah, that's fair.
I liked so this is a weird throwback. I liked how they handled Lily and Marshall and How I Met Your Mother.
Yes, that was an example I thought of as well.
Yep, that was a good one.
Where, there was some friction in some episodes here and there, but like over the course of the show, their relationship stayed healthy.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you neglected to mention the most important romance in all of Star Trek, though.
Go ahead.
That's when in 1994, Beverly Crusher fucked that ghost.
You know what? I think I specifically avoided that one.
Come on, we were 9, staying up late with our parents, watching
her have orgasmic sex with a ghost. Yep.
What about Crusher and Picard?
Okay, so yes. Okay, so hold on. Backing up to Stanford's example. That was just a terrible episode, and it is viewed as one of the worst episodes of Star Trek. For so many reasons. She's having sex with this, what it ends up being some, energy life form or whatever, who also has basically been banging the women in her family for generations.
I like how the Crusher family dildo is just like a ghost.
There's a scene in that episode where she's talking to Troy in 10 Forward, and just her description of it is just ugh. There was a voice, gross. A man. He whispered my name. It was as if I knew him, or more like he knew me. He knew exactly how I like to be touched. Blech. It was the most physical dream I've ever had. The sensations were very real and extremely arousing.
It sounds like those stereotypical like men writing women.
Yes.
Tropes, it's like she's breasting boobily towards the ghost or whatever. Yeah.
To which Troy responds, frankly, I'm envious, because who doesn't want to get raped by a ghost?
Oh, God, I just fucking put water in my nose.
If any of our listeners want to see a very manic and very funny review of that episode, you should watch the Up Is Not Jump YouTube video on it. It's really fucking funny.
I will.
Not a sponsor.
I will link it in the show notes. I can actually do that.
Nice.
Because yes, that is the breakdown I saw as well. Because I'm going to be honest, until that breakdown, I'd completely forgotten about that episode. Although it came roaring back to my brain real quick once I saw some of it.
So to your other point, Rob, Picard and Crusher, and I think actually we can lump Troy and Riker in here too in a lot of the same ways. they both of those couples kind of were like had like kind of previous relationships in different ways for sure, but they both were people who worked together on a regular basis, and I feel like they kept it very professional and like didn't make things weird with each other about it, you know.
Troy and Riker did a good job, but
yes.
I don't do Picard and Crusher get together on TNG towards the end of that show? I don't remember that.
No, they do not.
Okay,
no.
So we just know about the relationship between TNG and Picard.
Correct, yes.
Got it, okay. Because Riker and Troy, they kind of come together towards the end of TNG.
Yeah, and Insurrection, in the movie Insurrection, they do as well.
And then, yes, they do it in the movies, and then, like, you see it again
and
when you see it again in the last episode of Enterprise, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, yeah, that kind of comes back during Lower Decks and then into Picard as well.
Yeah. So it's I think those are interesting portrayals and of kind of that ex relationship but on good terms kind of thing.
Were Picard and Crusher in a relationship prior to that? They knew each other because Picard and her husband were friends.
Yes. I don't know if it's ever outright stated that they were in a relationship. I think it's kind of like implied that they were romantically interested in each other, but they kind of both viewed it as kind of
until
impractical.
Picard got her husband knocked off, then
weren't they?
Wolf 359 was an inside job.
Weren't they engaged at one point? Like when he was still friends with Jack Crusher?
I don't remember that.
Do not recall that.
Because
I watched the first couple seasons recently, and
that wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense because if Jack Crusher was still alive, she wouldn't be with him.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because Picard and Jack served together.
Right,
That's
they
why
were
they
friends.
were friends. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Maybe they were engaged when Picard first met him. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
That might be. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think those were both generally healthy relationships, and Riker and Troy is touched on quite a bit, even more so than Crusher and Picard. A lot of the kind of they still care for each other and they still have feelings for each other, but they're respectful of each other at the same time.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that will wrap up our deep dive section. Any other relationships you guys want to bring up?
No, I think that'll cut it.
All right. Well, when we come back, we will do a little potpourri with Stanford.
Welcome back. So for Potpourri today, I want to talk very, very like adjacent to Star Trek, and I want to talk about science fiction novels, specifically ones that I've really enjoyed, and some authors I've really enjoyed. When I was in college, I took a sci-fi literature class. Literature? I don't know if that was actually in the title, but a sci-fi English class, and met a professor by the name of Paul Youngquist. I fell in love with this class, and then I went on to TA the class for a couple of years, actually. And Rob, you were in one of my classes that I TA'd, right?
Yep.
I think I gave you A's on your shit because I was like, yeah, I remember giving A's.
No, I specifically you remember you having to take one of them to Youngquist to make sure that it was okay. Yes. You gave me like a near perfect score.
Yes, yeah. You did just fine. We were so proud of you.
Oh,
he's a special boy.
So I've been reading science fiction for quite a while. My first kind of like journey into it, because my parents were super into it as well, was when I was a kid. They would throw me various sci-fi novels. When I was younger, I would read like the Heinlein juvenile novels. So Space Cadet, Have Spacesuit, Will Travel. Heinlein himself is a somewhat problematic author. He gets a little fashy sometimes, and he's definitely pro-eugenics, so you gotta kind of watch out for that. But standard Silver Age science fiction. And then from there, you go into some of the classics, Robert L. Forward, Orson Scott Card before he turned into a whack job.
Hold on. What book would you say was the turning point for that?
Oh, no. In his life, he turned into a whack job. He turned into like an ultra conservative asshole.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, yeah. The Ender's Game series is a fine set of books, but like Orson Scott Card is incredibly like problematic person, and so don't buy his shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, these are the kinds of things that I read as I was kind of growing up, and then kind of came into the various things that I've really enjoyed as an adult. So there are 4 authors I'm going to talk about, kind of briefly, and some of the books that I really like by them. The first one is kind of my standard go-to science fiction author is Larry Niven. Larry Niven has written a lot of stuff. He's maybe most famously known for Ringworld, which I think, Rob, you read Ringworld and did not care for it, if I recall.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was too like, hey, you're along for this journey. Here's some cool stuff.
Very typical of the time in which that was written. Yeah, I don't disagree. Chris, have you even heard of any of this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So while Ringworld is the novel he's probably best known for, it is not my favorite by him. I really enjoyed the Fleet of Worlds series, which is kind of tangentially related to Ringworld, but that series he wrote later, and they are better written. He's a more accomplished author by then, and I really enjoyed those. But other books by Niven I really enjoyed. Footfall, Lucifer's Hammer, those were both pretty fun, kind of apocalyptic, like post-apocalyptic books. Footfall about an alien invasion, and Lucifer's Hammer about an asteroid hitting the Earth. And his kind of fun philosophical book that I like is called Mote in God's Eye, which he wrote with Jerry Parnell. And that one's pretty fun. It's one of those books where like it's a fun book, and I can't really say much about it because it kind of ruins the whole book if you already know what's going to happen. But that's a good book if you like those kind of puzzlers. So that's Larry Niven. He has been writing science fiction for at least 40 years, maybe longer at this point. Oh God, what is it? 2023, 50, almost 60 years now. He's still alive, still writing. And, he's a good writer if you like kind of standard classic science fiction. My current favorite author is a woman by the name of Becky Chambers. Becky Chambers has written a couple of different science fiction series.
Yes.
The one, yeah, Rob, I know you've read at least The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet.
Yeah. That was a great book.
Fantastic book. I don't know if she says this herself, but a lot of people describe her books as casual reading. I think that's the term. Where or like comfort fiction. I think that might be the term. There is a plot, but it's kind of soft, and it's more about experiencing like the relationships between the characters and just kind of enjoying like being there. That's what the book feels like.
Yeah, is it weird to say that it feels like a CW TV show?
but like good.
Yeah, like in a good way.
She makes a lot of very, very biting observations about how society is structured in all of her books, which is kind of nice. But I really like them because they're very easy to read. You find, especially with male authors, you find that there's a propensity in science fiction to be as stilted and academic as possible while still writing a book. And that gets exhausting very quickly. So it is nice to read a book that is written in a more casual way.
To be readable?
In terms of prose and rhetoric, absolutely. To actually be like very consumable, very readable, and very enjoyable. But like her observations of the human condition and human society are no less poignant than those other, kind of more academic writers. She just writes them in a friendlier prose that I really, really appreciate. I'm also like a weirdly slow reader for someone who reads a lot. So it's nice to be able to read something that I can get through, like in a reasonable amount of time. Another author that I will put into the category of, it's nice that he writes in a prose that is readable is Scalzi. John Scalzi? I don't know his first name. It's John. I think it's John Scalzi. John Scalzi is a great writer, and he writes a lot. He is a contemporary writer. He's only a little older than us. I think Becky Chambers is a little younger than us. And he has written a lot of pretty incredible pieces of fiction. He may be best known for The Old Man's War, which itself is good. I did not continue reading the series because I thought that book stood by itself well enough. But I have read almost all of his other novels. And the series that I really enjoyed was one that is called The Interdependency.
Oh, yes, I hoped you were going to mention that. That is my favorite of his work. It was really good.
Very good. Very good set of books. Good, hard sci-fi. But another book I want to call out actually is a book called Lock-In that he did. Lock-In is interesting in a couple of ways. One, it's about like a society-wide disability that affects like a lot of people. And that has a level of disability sensitivity that you don't see a lot, especially in science fiction, because it's easy to just kind of hand wave like, well, you know, we have the such and such device and it just cures, you know, spinal cord injuries. But he actually talks about like what life is like with a disability. And that book specifically is written in first person, and you are never given a gender for the main character. Which you don't really notice until it's called out, because like it's a lot of eyes and the character's name is Chris. Oh, hey, Chris, the character's name is Chris. I just realized that. It's funny. But there's, they never call a gender out. And what's interesting is I tend to listen to Scalzi's books because I find them very entertaining to listen to. And for that book, there are actually two narrators. They have two options for the narrators. One is like a woman and one is a man. Now, here is where we're going to get a little Star Trek adjacent. Scalzi's books are almost universally read by Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton.
And he is a really, really good audiobook narrator.
Yes.
If you're a big Star Trek fan and you're going to try to read a Scalzi book, the book you should probably go ahead and check out is Red Shirts. Have you read that one, Rob?
I haven't. I've been meaning to read that one and the Kaiju Preservation Society or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of his newer ones. That is still on my list to read as well. But Red Shirts is a book wherein he supposes like, hey, what if the original series of Star Trek was real? And not like, what if we were just Star Trek, but like, what if that campy TV show where all those tropes happen was real because someone wrote it? And it's very funny. It's a good like humor, but it's also a very interesting discussion of like how we treat characters versus how we treat people. It's really interesting. And
apparently I'll have to look up
go ahead.
No, I was just saying apparently I'll have to look up some Scalzi books because I have not read any of this stuff.
It's all really, really good.
It's kind of funny. I've listened to a lot of Brandon Sanderson's podcasts, and they've kind of pitted Scalzi as like his arch nemesis because like they both became very popular around the same time, and Scalzi always seemed to win the awards that they were both up for at the same time. He's definitely well deserving of it. His books are really great.
Science fiction has kind of a leg up on winning awards like that, so I don't think that is Brandon Sanderson's fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both good writers in their own ways.
Just by the nature of what science fiction tries to do, you mean?
Couple of things. One, it tends to be shorter. And two, it is easier to write science fiction in novel ways than it is to write epic fantasy. And Sanderson does a great job of writing epic fantasy in a way that no one else has yet. Mm-hmm. I've actually many times, like, if you actually digest the themes of Brandon Sanderson's fantasy books, they are actually science fiction. It's kind of like the opposite of Star Wars, where Star Wars is fantasy, but with like spaceships.
With sci-fi
Brandon
flavor.
Sanderson writes sci-fi with magic.
Yeah.
And I can go into a long diatribe about that. I'm not going to here, but it is an analysis I've come to over the last couple of years, and it might be why I think he might be my favorite fantasy author.
I'm excited to see what he does with Mistborn, because like the next trilogy is supposed to be like sci-fi timeline, like cyberpunkish,
right, yep.
or forward.
Forward, yeah. He's got one more book, I think, in the Wax and Wayne series.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last author I wanted to mention was kind of an author that I learned about in college, but then read several of her books by the name of Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler is an author who started writing, I think, in the late 70s, but wrote through the 80s. And I believe she is quoted as saying, "I know I'm the only Black woman writing science fiction today because I'm the only woman writing science fiction today." So there's science fiction was always kind of the gentleman's club. Basically, since since the golden age back in the 30s, all the way through to pretty much till today. It's still unfortunately rare for women to be writing science fiction. And not even so much that they're not writing it, but that like, because of how our society is structured and how the publishing structures work, like it's more difficult for women to get published, be read, be appreciated, etc. And Octavia Butler, not only being a woman but also a Black woman, she's in that intersectionality, right, of two kind of marginalized groups, especially as far as science fiction authors are concerned. Because at the time, as far as Black authors, you get her and then like Samuel R. Delany, and that was pretty much it. So her probably most famous science fiction series, like pure science fiction series, is the Lilith's Brood series. That's the one you read, Rob, the opening book of, which is called Dawn. Great book. Very interesting discussions of genetic engineering and what it means to be human and what it means to be a person. A lot of discussion about gender in a way that you don't expect for the early 80s. A fantastic book. She also writes what I would call like a historical sci-fi, where she kind of has a self-insert character that goes back in time to the antebellum South and like slavery. And that book is called Kindred. It is a fascinating read, especially as like, a white guy who did not grow up with that kind of heritage. It is a fascinating read. And very disturbing at parts. Like don't think it's going to be light. It's a heavy read. And actually, Kindred is being made into a show right now.
Oh, cool.
Interesting. One writer you reminded me of that I had read a few years ago is Nnedi Okorafor. She wrote a sci-fi series called Bidti, which is kind of like a Afrofuturist sci-fi series, which was very interesting. Something you may want to check out as well.
Oh yeah, I will. I've not heard of that at all. I would. Yeah.
She won the Hugo Award for that series. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so those are the four authors I wanted to call out as far as like some of my favorites. I don't know that I have a definitive favorite. It might just be Becky Chambers, but Scalzi's up there too. I really like Scalzi's work. I don't know if there's anyone y'all want to call out as well.
I am not generally a fan of this genre, but Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash is the finest cyberpunk I've ever read. I would take that over Neuromancer, I think. And I enjoyed Neuromancer too.
So it is interesting because like Stephenson, Snow Crash is considered like there are a couple of texts like that are considered like the holy bibles of cyberpunk. Neuromancer and Snow Crash are among them, and then there might only be like one or two more. I'm not surprised that you liked Snow Crash better, because Snow Crash is not written in a prototypical cyberpunk way.
No.
When you're in hero protagonists like point of view, they do tend to be, kind of written in a cyberpunky kind of prose. But Stevenson himself is not a cyberpunk author. he's an author who then wrote a cyberpunk book. Right. So a lot of his book is actually just kind of general science fiction feel to it, even though it's in a cyberpunk setting.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, I've read Snow Crash like 6 or 7 times. It's a great book.
I started reading the Silo series because I watched the show on Apple TV. I'm like, I'll check out the books.
My mom says that I need to watch that show.
It's good. Yeah, I mean, it's good.
Have either of you either read or watched any of The Expanse?
I have watched The Expanse series, so I have not read the books.
Okay. I enjoy the series.
I tried to watch it. I didn't care for how it was put together cinematography. Like, it wasn't doing it for me. I tried to read the books and I got a little bored, so I stopped. For some reason, The Expanse wasn't doing it for me. And it may just be like, it wasn't doing it for me enough for the looming concept that it's like 10 or 12 books.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I mean, it's fine, but do I like it enough to commit to 10 books, you know?
It is definitely a commitment. Not as bad as like The Wheel of Time, but it's definitely a commitment.
I'm actually reading an Alastair Reynolds book right now called Pushing Ice, which so far has been pretty interesting. Yeah, so those are some of the sci-fi books that we enjoy and some of the authors that we enjoyed. Anyone else have anything to add before I kind of cap us out here?
Nope.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We try to reiterate this at the beginning and at the end of the podcast, that we really do rely on rates, reviews, and especially word of mouth for telling people about this podcast. If you're enjoying listening to us yammer about Star Trek, tell a buddy, tell a couple of buddies to come and also listen to us yammer. We're trying to get our views up. We are almost done with the first season of this, and at this point, it's one of those things where I'm very proud of us for sticking to it even this long, which I think we're on episode 18, 19. And I'm really looking forward to keeping it going. And so I hope that we can actually kind of scoop in some listeners there. So please do that favor for us. That would be greatly appreciated. And I know at the end of the show we tell you to send us an email if you want to talk to us or talk to us on Twitter. We don't have a lot of listeners right now, so like I'm definitely going to see your email or your tweet if you send it to me, and I will share it with everybody. So, if you've got some real harsh things to say, now's the time to get them out, because when we're the most popular podcast in the world, I'm not going to have the time. So, but now's your moment. Thank you again, and we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.